State of the Union with John King, CNN Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Robert Gibbs, welcome.
John, thank you for having me.
I want to start with this picture. Here's the front of the Washington Post, and it shows a picture from one of the Tea Party protests. This one here in Washington, D.C., outside the Capitol. Tens of thousands protest Obama initiatives and government spending. I want to get to some of their concerns because even though you disagree with most of them or think the president's plan doesn't do what they say it does, it is affecting the tone of the debate across the country. Let's start with one, taxes. If you talk to these people at the rally, they say there's no way, if he gets his way, that the president can pay for this health care plan without raising taxes on everyday Americans.
Well, I would say two things. One, that's not true. The president outlined a plan to Congress on Wednesday that first cuts waste and inefficiency from Medicare and Medicaid, dollars that are already being spent on health care but aren't making us safer or healthier. And the revenue increase that the president has proposed is actually on insurance companies that offer gold-plated health care plans. One of the messages that I wish would get through, not just to any group that was out in front of the Capitol yesterday, but certainly throughout America, this president passed the broadest tax cut in American history at the beginning of the year by funding his Make Work Pay tax cut that he talked about in the campaign that puts money directly back into people's pockets to get this economy moving again.
Another thing they say is, what do you do about illegal immigrants? And they say, yes, the plan wouldn't cover illegal immigrants, but they could still walk into an emergency room and get treatment. There's not much a president can do about that, is there?
Well, look, John, understand that in the law, if I lose my health insurance tomorrow and get hit by a bus, I can do the same thing. The same thing is true for you, whether you were born in this country or not. But what the president stated clearly to Congress on Wednesday was that our plan would not cover illegal immigrants, and illegal immigrants would not have the ability to participate even in a health care exchange. I think that's important. That doesn't mean we don't have to deal with a problem of illegal immigration, but it's not being dealt with in health care reform.
Where do we go from here? The president gave his speech. It certainly boosted morale among the Democrats, and it certainly now has the Democrats talking about the compromises you need to make within the Democratic family. It did not produce a line of Republicans saying, Mr. President, we're on board. The Senate Finance Committee will come out with its bill this week. The president expects the Senate to pass legislation when?
Well, look, I think the president has a deadline of getting this done this year. I think it's an important development that Republicans and Democrats are working together on the Senate Finance Committee to get something out of that last of the 5 committees this week. And we think next getting something through the House and something ultimately to the president's desk that meets his test of safety, stability, and security for the tens of millions that are fortunate enough to have health insurance but still deal with details like being discriminated against by their insurance company, and ensuring that those that don't have health care have a path through a tax credit, ironically, to get the type of security that they need for them and their family.
It was quite telling. The first big meeting after the speech was with the centrist Democrats. The president had a bunch of them down to the White House. They came back to the Capitol after. One of them, Tom Carper of Delaware, was asked about the public option, which, as you know, is a big divide within the Democratic family. Do you need a robust public option? The votes aren't there in the Senate. Senator Carper says the president can do the math.
He's not going to abandon the principle of competition, the need to keep the insurance companies honest. I think the way to get there is something that he's willing to negotiate on.
Even the Speaker of the House has gone away from saying, I cannot pass a bill without a public option, to saying it's just one of the things out there. Is that over with now? Has the president, I know he couldn't do it in the speech. That was not the goal of the speech. But in the private meetings now, is he, look, I'd like it as much as you do, but the math's not there. Let's move on.
Well, look, John, I think what the president talked about on Wednesday and in this meeting with centrists, and he would tell this to any Democrat or any Republican, the goal of a public option, as Senator Carper just said, is to provide choice and competition. It affects only those in the private insurance or the small group and small business market. So hundreds of millions of people that get their insurance like you and I do through our employers won't be affected by a public option. But what it does is for those people that have to enter that private insurance market and don't have a choice or some competition between those insurers bidding to cover them, that we ensure that that happens and that improves.
You used to work in the Senate, though. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being he'll get it, 1 being he won't. You know the math here.
Well, but I think what's important, John, is, as the president said, he prefers the public option. However, he said what's most important is choice and competition. We're willing to work with Congress to ensure that when the president signs that piece of legislation, that somebody like my friend in Alabama who started a small business and had to enter a private insurance market that's dominated 89% of which is dominated by one insurance company, that when he goes to buy insurance for his family and a small business, that he has more than one option. That's what's most important here. I think what the president said to both Democrats and Republicans, we need to have that choice and competition, two ideals that, quite frankly, they've always fought for. And for our Democratic friends, the public option is a means to an end, but it is not all of health care.
I want to go through the evolution of the health care debate, including some of the president's language. For months in the campaign, the president said this, and he has said it as president, that don't worry, if you have health insurance, you have nothing to fear. Listen to the president.
Under the reform we're proposing, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
But critics, including in television advertisements, have said the president can't make that case. He cannot guarantee that, because if you change the marketplace, some employers, even though the president might not like it, might look for some other plan to cover. And so in his speech Wednesday night, it was very noticeable that the president's language shifted somewhat.
Nothing in this plan will require you or your employer to change the coverage of the doctor you have.
Nothing would require. He did not use the word "you can keep it" anymore. He concedes that point, that he hopes it stays that way, but he can't guarantee it.
Well, look, John, my doctor may retire tomorrow. He can't prevent my doctor from retiring. But let's understand.
But he can't prevent my employer in a different marketplace from looking for different options.
Well, what a lot of employers are facing right now are the high cost of health care, which is causing them to have to drop their insurance and making that change for people. I think the misconception the president has always tried to address are opponents that say, if this bill passes, somebody else is going to pick your doctor, somebody else is going to pick your plan, somebody else is going to decide for you what test you can and cannot get. All of those things are simply not true.